Say you should never meet your idols, your heroes. I beg to differ. What's up, universe, and welcome back to the web's first must-see comic nerd culture show. Welcome to Comic Universe, guys. I'm your host, as always, CDubbs, and I'm riding solo on this video. And guys, with the recent passing of Stan Lee, got me to thinking, and it got me to thinking about my heroes, if you will, in life. If you know, the icons that you follow, the people that have inspired you throughout your life. And they say you should never meet your heroes, your icons, legends, inspirations, because they'll always let you down. And I beg to differ. I've never been let down by any of my heroes in terms of when I met them. But you always got to know when you go into things and situations like that nobody is perfect. You know, that we, we're all human. None of the people on my list here are perfect. They all have flaws. They haven't been the greatest person of all time or anything to that nature, but there's something about them all that have inspired me in my life. And with the recent passing of Stan Lee, got me to thinking that over the years I may have lost, that inspiration, that I forgot about them. And I always wanted to live my life to a certain degree like some of these guys. Take little bits and pieces to kind of mold and meld my life, if you will. So I just want to take some time to show some honor toward the people that have inspired me, and just to talk a little bit about, my heroes or icons, if you will. And you should never idolize anyone. I get that. But for the sake of this video, heroes, icons, inspirations, we're just going to wrap them all up into a nice little bow, and they all kind of mean the same thing in this general video, if you will. And guys, it's my hope that you guys will get to know a little bit more about myself, as well as I'll get to know a little bit about you guys by you guys in the comments below, letting us know who are some of your heroes, icons, or inspirations, if you will. And I just got quickly a list of 8, if you will. I'm just going to talk a little briefly about some of them, and what about them that inspired me to some degree, and, just so you guys, again, could get to know me a little better. And first and foremost on my list, I'm still reeling from the death of Stan Lee. This channel, we've said it a couple of times now, this channel would not exist if it was not for Stan Lee. It would not. He inspired this channel indirectly, okay? His love and admiration for comic books and heroes and just entertaining the masses, if you will, has inspired me. And it inspired DPZ, and it inspired Jay. And like Jay said, we all met on a fan fiction website, just writing our hearts out to Marvel characters, because that's how much we love them. And the proof is in the pudding. We are here today on this channel because of Stan Lee. And one of the things that I think is overlooked is that, and the thing that I admire him the most for, is not just his creative prowess. It is the fact that he went from being embarrassed of who he was and what he did in life. He was embarrassed to be a comic book writer. Okay, he was looked down upon for entertaining thousands and millions of people over the years. And he came into his own, and over time realized what he did mattered, what he did had some importance. And all these fools out there that are trying to kind of twist and turn, Stan's death and how it's not important, and from Bill Maher to Armie Hammer, if you will, all these fools saying these things about Stan, and other people showing their photos with Stan. Listen, they just don't get it, and I feel sorry for them, okay? Stan was a great man. He was not perfect. He did a lot of things. He took a lot of credit for things that he maybe shouldn't have. But what he did on the opposite end of that is what I like to admire him for. And the fact that he was able to come into his own as a man and be proud of what he did in his life, same here. I come from a very professional background. I work hard. My work ethic is crazy. I'll give you 4,000% every single day. And I've been burned many times over because of that, taken advantage of by companies and bosses and supervisors and things of that nature. That I have finally decided, when DPZ had mentioned he was looking for a co-host, And though we may not host every episode because life has gotten in the way here on Comic Universe, I was like, man, I want to get into YouTube. I want to do this. Now's a better time than ever. Let's do it. And again, indirectly, it's thanks to Stan Lee that we are even here. So if you guys like anything we've ever done, we have Stan to thank for that. Now, another hero of mine, okay, is Philip DeFranco. Here, he's a YouTuber. Everybody should know who he is. And again, he's not perfect. He's just not. He'll be the first person to tell you he's not. And I also know that to some degree, he's an inspiration to Jay as well. I really decided I wanted to get into YouTube, but looking at this guy's career, just a few years ago, he was nothing. He was just this guy doing this to entertain himself on YouTube, and look at what he's become and able to grow a company. And to a certain degree, that is my idea for this channel, is over time we could grow and I could employ others and build a platform for all of us to discuss our feelings and just nerd out together. And sure, you can't just eliminate trolls, unfortunately, but the positive influence that we will all have as a community here in Comic Universe, I want to outweigh those trolls and to let those trolls know they have no place here. And it's the model that I've seen Philip DeFranco portray and create with his multiple companies. And again, he's made some successes, he's had some fails, he's made some great business moves, he's made some bad business moves. He is not a perfect man. Okay, but Philip DeFranco, I want to thank you. If just by any chance of the matter you would ever see this, you have inspired me to at least get on this channel and just start. Okay, see where it leads me. Okay, and me and the guys, we're trucking along. We're doing great. Okay, and we want to thank all of you guys for that too. And again, a part of it is because Philip DeFranco has inspired me, and again, I know Jay as well, to let's do this. Let's make this a reality, if you will. Now, moving on from that, another huge inspiration in my life, Bruce Lee, the former martial artist and actor, the departed. He's not with us any longer, but his wisdom, his teachings, and his technique are still there. I was never a martial artist at all. Okay, I'll be the first to admit that this wasn't my thing. But his philosophy on life, to be the water. I always wanted to be water, if you will. I mold and meld myself to whatever the situation that I am in. And many times, and I think so highly of myself, not in a conceited manner, but I think so highly that I feel that I am such a powerful person, if you will, inside, that whatever the world, comes at me with, that I have the force to push it back, like the tides, if you will, to wear down the rocks, the stones in life, okay, and tear them down. It sounds goofy, but that's, again, and over time, yeah, there's days I forget about that. But whenever I see a picture of him or an image, or I hear him saying, be water, be the water, my friend, it is the most powerful force on this planet. Okay, without it, we would not have life. Okay, and it's true, we should all be the water. Okay, we could hit as hard as stone, okay, and we could be, we could flow. We can flow and just let things roll off of our back. We choose to be, what we are in this life. We have the power. No matter what color, race, creed, if you will, we have the ability to make it better. There are going to be obstacles in your way. You just have to, again, mold yourself to deal with those situations. And, again, if it wasn't for Bruce Lee, I many jobs I would have just tucked my tail and ran, or not dealt with the particular bully that was in front of me, or the pressure that was coming on to me out of life. Another huge inspiration. If you know me, I don't really talk much about it here on this channel, but I'm a humongous wrestling fan. Like, my knowledge for wrestling, it might be second to none for some people. Like, I have roots. I've trained to become a professional wrestler and all kinds of different things. It's what I wanted to be when I was younger. It never happened, mainly because of injuries and just not being able to keep my body in shape that I needed it to be due to those injuries, and obviously not having the money to finish going to wrestling school and things of that nature. But I never took it as a defeat. I took what I've learned and I've applied it to the entertainment that I get from wrestling. Okay, and it's allowed me to enjoy wrestling that much more. But my inspiration isn't the wrestling. It is actually a particular wrestler by the name of Bret Hart, Bret the Hitman Hart. He was my favorite wrestler as a kid growing up. I believed, and still to this day, I believe he is the greatest in-ring technician overall. Now, there have been maybe some guys who can do it a little better than him. Okay, but there's something they're missing. They don't have the power that he had, or the absolute flawlessness. He moved like water in the ring. The dude was a ring general. And his moniker was the best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be. And as long as you do it and present it in a respectful manner, there's no reason why you cannot believe yourself to be those three things. In fact, we should all believe those three things about ourselves. You don't have to rub it in someone else's nose, but you should believe that you're the best there is, the best there was, and the best, hands down, there ever will be. And even when he became what we call in the industry a heel, a bad guy, if you will, he had valid points for his turning. He never wavered in who he was. Okay, the world wrestling profession as a whole kind of changed around him, if you will. And, and I love Stone Cold, and he's one of my favorite wrestlers of all time, too. But all of a sudden, it was cool to be this anti-establishment and this villain portraying as a hero, which slowly eventually became known as an anti-hero. And then all of a sudden, the good guy was now looked at as the bad guy, and he adapted to that. And it wasn't that he was a pure bad guy. He just adapted. He never wavered in who he was, and that was always an inspiration to me. And to be honest, still to this day, I judge every wrestler I see in the ring, wrestling, if you will. He was never the best on the mic, but in terms of wrestling, I judge them to Bret. How they would wrestle a match with Bret, if they're any good compared to Bret. And that's how I determine who are the good wrestlers and who are the shoddy wrestlers, if you will. Moving on from there, my biggest musical inspiration, if you will. I listen to everything under the sun, from electronic dance music to literally opera singers, okay, and just meditation music. I listen to everything, country, pop, rock, but I am first and foremost a hip-hop head. I love hip-hop. There's something about it speaks to me. I come from a very urban city. There were many times I was the only, if you will, even though I am part Puerto Rican, the only white kid in school. I was the only white kid in 3 of my classes, okay, growing up. And it's just honestly something about Tupac always spoke to me. And though I am not an African American, and sometimes some of the music can be portrayed strictly just for an African American, the trials and tribulations that most Americans, African Americans, still to this day, they face. To some degree, I face that as being the only, white kid in school, if you will. So I understood some of the struggles that he himself, and I again, I say this with the utmost respect to every African American out there. I am not dealt with half the troubles, our ancestors have dealt with in the past, that your ancestors have dealt with in the past. But I felt some of those prejudices and some of those racist remarks. And I for instance, in my school had a cracker day. If you were light-skinned, brother, or if you were a white kid or a Hispanic, you should not show up at school that day. And it's true. But Tupac always spoke to me. And another thing I've always admired about Pac is that he was able to paint a picture long after his death. He was even able to paint a picture of his death. You've seen it coming. You knew how it was going to be held, how he was able to dictate that. And that is why a lot of people's like, oh, he's still alive. And it's because of what he was able to paint, that beautiful portrait. And the way he was able to be an activist and speak out for the lesser man, if you will, and point out, this is what's going on, man. We're killing each other. These people are holding us down. And this, that, and the third. and the way he was able to look at death in the face and to still say what he meant, regardless. Okay? And if he was around to this day, man, the music industry, as well as Hollywood, because he was on the way of attacking Hollywood, would not be the way it is today. Okay? And with, especially with social media, if Pac had the social media aspects to practice, to put out that message, if you will, and to those who are closed-minded and just hear thug life and think that it's just gangster music about hurting people, I challenge you to really listen to most of his songs. So many of his songs are trying to preach about becoming better, doing better, you know, and getting out of the gutter, if you will. And Pac always was an inspiration to me. And I want to thank him for that. And to be honest, he's one of the only people that if he was still alive, if I got to meet in person, I would be like one of those little fangirls that freak out like for the Backstreet Boys or whatever back in the day, or NSYNC. I'd be like, oh, my mind would be blown. Part of it, obviously, because he's supposedly dead. And if he were still alive, and it would just be amazing. And I want to be the first person to say that if they ever did a hologram tour, okay, of Pac, I would be there, hands down, bar none. Like, I would be the first person to buy the ticket, and I don't care how much those tickets cost. I would do everything I could to get those tickets. Now, the next few people that I talk about are kind of a collective, if you will. I'm also a humongous San Francisco 49er fan, for better or for worse. And my inspirations, Joe Montana, Steve Young, and Jerry Rice, Ronnie Lott, the whole of them all. When I got into football, I was 9 years old. I got to meet the entire 49ers team, if you will. And from that point on, I was just a huge 49ers fan. That would never change. And I have met Joe Montana on 5 separate occasions in my life. And after the second time, he actually knew who I was by name. And he used to come to my job, and I made sure I was the first person he saw. And even if I was off on that day when he checked in, he would ask. And he would leave a message for me, letting him know that once I was in, to get with him so that I could help him, during his stay, if you will. So that's what I say. When you meet your idols, they don't have to be a bad thing. And just the sheer greatness and will and determination, and the way that you could see Montana dissect a defense and just analyze everything, okay, was an inspiration to me. And that's the way I kind of approach life. And for better or for worse, you could ask my wife, I overanalyze everything. I try to think of 140 different solutions to one problem, just in case it pops up somehow, some way. And Steve Young was an inspiration of mine, because he was able to take what he had, his gifts and his skills, okay, and sit there on the bench and just learn and see what was presented in front of him, and then take that opportunity and run with it. There's so many people out there, especially if you're talented yourself, sitting on the, and even though I'm not a big Aaron Rodgers fan, the same thing could be said for Aaron Rodgers. He had all that skill, and he sat back and watched Favre, and he took, when he was given his opportunity, and he ran with it, okay? And it's same thing Steve Young did. And, he was a mixed bag. He could throw, he could run, he could juke, he could jive. Whatever he had to do to try to get the job done. Was he the greatest quarterback of all time? No. But when I was in the height of my San Francisco fandom, if you will, in the early 90s, early to mid 90s, he was my quarterback. I loved the dude. Okay, he could do no wrong in my eyes, okay? And then you have the greatest receiver of all time, and I don't care who you are, if you dispute that, you don't know football. Not only does he hold all the records, and not only does he have rings to show for it, he has the respect of his peers. And again, he's not a perfect man, okay? I've heard stories, that, he may have been a womanizer. Okay, I don't know that, but, he was nice to my wife when my wife met him. He was nice to my cousin when he met him, and unfortunately I have not yet to meet him, okay, but I have nothing to believe other than he would be nice to me. My cousin, met him at work, and he shook my cousin's hand, and my cousin's like, I don't know if I should wash his hand. He's like, and he told him, he's basically humble. He's like, man, I'm just a normal dude like you. And he's like, go ahead and wash it, man. And honestly, the dedication, I don't know if you've ever heard this, but when he was a kid, his dad would not throw bricks at him, but essentially would bring him to work and drop bricks, at his job. And it would be his job to catch those bricks. And eventually they did throw bricks in as practice for him to catch. And, like if you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball, right? If you can catch a brick, you can catch a ball. And he had hands of pillows to catch those bricks. And it was just dedication to something so difficult is an inspiration to me. And just to kind of round it off, another two sports icons of mine. I'm a huge Chicago Bulls fan. Obviously, growing up in the 90s, you kind of have to be. Of course, I want to say Michael Jordan because of his dedication to greatness. And yes, he is an inspiration of mine, is one of my favorite players. But my favorite player of all time is actually Scottie Pippen. The hard nose, did the dirty work. And yes, Jordan did it too. But Jordan was the face. He did everything else that had to be done. Now, there were other people that added to the greatness of my team. Okay, but Scottie Pippen does not get the credit he deserves. How difficult it must be to play behind the greatest player to ever play. He gets questioned if he should be considered in the 50 great, or I think it's now 75 or 100 greatest players of all time. Or how he even made it to the actual original Dream Team is riding the coattails of Jordan. No, man. Pippen put in his work. Jordan didn't win until Pippen got there. Okay, and to be honest with you, Pippen got damn close to getting back right to the finals without Michael Jordan. It didn't happen. Okay, but it just goes to show you that Scottie Pippen was a damn dog. He was in it for the win. He was in it to the very end. And even when he, as an older version of himself, and he moved on to other teams like the Portland Trail Blazers. Man, even in his older age, man, he was leading that team. He was making them a force in the West. Okay, he really, really was. And, I'm not here to say your players are better than mine or mine are better than yours. I'm not getting into a debate on sports or athletes. But you can't deny that he is one of the greatest players that ever played with or without Michael Jordan. And the last hero or icon I want to talk about that was an inspiration to my life, and please just indulge me for a moment, is my mother. She wasn't a perfect woman. She had a lot of ailments in her life, and she is not with us anymore. But my mom, in terms of just her hospitality, was raised in a very old country Hungarian home, if you will. And the type of home where you did something wrong, you got hit with the wooden spoon or hit with whatever they could find. And when you kneeled in the corner because of your punishment, it was on dry rice. You didn't just get to kneel or stand in the corner for timeout. You were punished. And my mom had survived 2 brain tumors. Okay, she was a fighter of cancer. Okay, and she actually unfortunately passed of cancer. But she was a fighter to the very end. And I honestly feel that she let go of her life, just because she thought she was a burden to mine. And I wish I could have told her that she wasn't. And I'm going to do my best not to cry, obviously. But my mom really instilled in me to treat people as I want to be treated, to have respect and decency and manners. Okay? Try not to be a burden to other people to a fault. Okay? And that she instilled that into me, and to this day, I even just pushing my buggy down the aisle at Walmart. I want to make sure that I'm not in the way of the next person trying to get by, and I can't say that for everybody. And it really does bug me that it's sometimes, if you just did all the little things, they would add up to big things. People don't realize in this world, and to be honest with you, I think we could all learn from just that. Do the little things. Okay? They do add up to bigger things. If you don't have the power to change the world with just one grand gesture or one thing, or you don't have the money to change the world, or you didn't create the latest, greatest invention that's going to mold everyone, make everyone a better human, just practice on you. You be a better human. And that will rub off on the next person. And you teach it to your children and your friends, and create a culture that is built on love and respect, if you will, and to treat people as you want to be treated. Alright guys, I've rambled on for 25 minutes on today's topic of my heroes. Okay, and some of the inspirations they were to me. I want to know who are your heroes. Feel free to ramble on for as long as you want. I promise I will read every single comment Because again, I want to know the community. I want to know what you guys are like. I want to know who inspired you. And guys, if you see any faults in my heroes, that's fine. I realize that my heroes are not perfect. None of them are. Okay? But they all taught me something. And sometimes over the years, I've forgotten those somethings. And Stan Lee has reinstilled into me to try to become a better person. Okay? And to remember my heroes and remember what they inspired me to be, and I'm going to try to be that. Alright, universe, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe on this. If you do share it, please put that hashtag Topic Tuesday. It's only going to help us grow. And until next time, I'm CDubbs, and I'll see you in the universe. Peace.